What is up, rock stars, and welcome back to the EML. I'm JB.
I'm the doctor.
Hey, if this is your first time joining us, welcome to the Entrepreneur Mastery Lab. And thank you for checking us out. Please make sure before you roll out today, you like, you subscribe, you follow, you give us a 5-star review, whatever you got to do it so you can keep catching our content as it comes out every single week. And if you're a returning listener or viewer, thank you so much for coming back. We appreciate you.
Yeah, you get to see all the goods on YouTube. All these smiling faces. You don't want to miss that.
And we know you've all already liked and subscribed and followed and all those things.
Ring the bell.
If you've been checking us out before. Yeah. So my favorite time of the year for the most part, Doc, wrapping it up, kind of the light at the end of the tunnel for most people. I mean, we're not retail, right? So it's not like we've got like this crazy holiday season where we've got to like get rid of inventory or something. Kind of a nice end to the year vibe at this point.
I thought you were doing like a wrap it up, like Christmas present pun. I was so ready for it. And then you moved directions on me.
Keeping you on your toes, but didn't even occur to me. I missed on that, didn't I? I just total whiff.
It's like a beautiful dad joke right there.
I thought maybe we should open up our podcast with dad jokes. I actually considered that. It might be a different change of pace. But I
don't we usually?
Not intentionally, but yeah.
Well, true. Have you got all your Christmas shopping done or holiday shopping done?
I never
any
do.
Holiday shopping done.
Don't judge. I'm not materialistic. I don't need to do a lot of holiday shopping. I have a spouse that helps me with that part of things. We're not quite fully done, but that's what Amazon's for in Prime delivery. So we're good. And we'll take the sponsorship, Amazon. Thank you.
Does she buy her own gift and then wrap it and then you get surprised on what you got her?
No, we don't go that far, but I don't think that's a bad system.
That's a great system. My mom used to do that all the time. My dad was always shocked at what he bought her for Christmas.
Yeah. And everybody's happy, right? I mean,
ideally, that's a great way to. So that's our tip out there. If you want to get us a gift, you can also just.
We'll let you know what we want.
We want you to subscribe, ring bells, share with all your friends. There you go. That would be a great one. That's how you can share. Give the gift of the EML podcast to a friend of yours. You could even wrap it up.
How do you wrap it up?
You wrap it up by introducing our guest.
Okay. All right. Well, that's
how you do it.
That is our gift for everybody here. We are pumped. We've got Gabe Walters of Steadyworth. Gabe is a CFP, Certified Financial Planner. Gabe, thank you so much for joining us on the show, man. It's great to see you.
It's great to see you guys. Thanks for having me today.
So we got to ask you, man, we got to keep you in the conversation here. Have you done all your shopping for the holidays or what?
I have not. I'm a last minute person. So even though I'm a planner every other part of the year, Christmas is December 24th for me.
Okay. All right. Well, that's cool. Do us a favor, do our listeners a favor and our viewers, just share a little bit about yourself and Steadyworth so they have a better feel of who we're chatting with today.
Sure. My name's Gabe Walters. I am the founder and owner of Steadyworth. In Steadyworth, we offer financial planning education. So we have a financial planning course that allows a person to build a one-page financial plan in about less than 60 minutes. So that's just a high-level view of what we do. So I do financial education and coaching.
Right on, man. Well, thanks for coming on. And I always like to ask, what prompted you to start the business? I mean, you've been a CFP for a little while now. You've been in the industry, but why now and why the business?
Sure. I've always been interested in entrepreneurship. My dad had a painting contracting company, and I went to work with him a lot as a kid because it was either do that or go to the babysitter. And so I really enjoyed the different days of entrepreneurship. Like every day seemed a bit different. Every project was different. I knew I didn't want to work as a painting contractor. So I always had this thing about finance. I was really interested in that. So fast forward, I worked in as a registered investment advisor in that industry for about 8 years. And I kept seeing that there was a need. And so the firm I was at required all new clients to have a minimum of $1 million. And so they would turn away people who didn't have that minimum of that $1 million minimum to become clients. And so I felt like the need was, what about the people who are looking to build a structure to come up with that first million? And so I founded Steadyworth, offering financial planning education. And really our goal and our target client and our framework is built towards people who are looking to accumulate that first $1 million.
So, I mean, $1 million,
Before you
What's that?
I need to ask, was your previous employer Dr. Evil? $1 million. That might be an old reference for some of you, but Austin Powers, great classic movie.
Per your severance package, you're not allowed to share, right?
Right. I had multiple things right there. I was like,
laser
hey.
beams. You may continue, JB.
They thank you. I love the sharks with laser beams, by the way. The great Austin Powers reference. I gotta say, like $1 million. That's a lot of money. I mean, we're not talking a small chump change amount of money, and I'm not up to date on the exact statistic, but I mean, top 1%, probably maybe even narrower from an influency standpoint. So I gotta just figure that you got to feel some shame if you're getting turned down because you don't have $1 million, right?
Right. Well, they wouldn't they would just say, hey, this is what our requirement, but then they would it was like a soft turn down. So they would refer them to some other people who, maybe do hourly or have lower minimums type things.
So we can't help you, but somebody else can. But there's this idea I think that floats out there. And it's pretty common for a lot of people, just like, hey, I'm not worth working with an advisor, right? Like it's not worth it for an advisor to chat with me. And I've worked with a lot of seniors over the years and a lot of retirees, and you have somebody with $300,000 or $400,000 to their name, and they think they're not like good enough to work with an advisor,
right?
Or they think they're going to get screwed over by working with an advisor because they don't have tons of assets. And then I know hundreds of advisors, if not thousands, that would love to chat with somebody who has $400,000 that they can help out with, right? I mean, like, oh my gosh, like half the advisors out there would love that. So, is that part of the reason for Steadyworth? Is that part of the driver behind it?
Well, there's a two-part reason. That reason, and also, and I could be totally wrong about this other reason, but I feel like, this generation that we have coming up, the millennial generation, this is the first generation that grew up with Google in their pocket or grew up with an iPhone. And so one other trend I see is that a lot of people in this generation are already looking and learning to manage their money, whether it's through a Vanguard account or they're trading on one of these platforms, whether it be Robinhood, Schwab, or whatever. So my thought is, since they're already Googling how to manage money, I felt like at some point they might start Googling how to build a comprehensive financial plan, such as what does a certified financial planner do? And when they Google that, I want them to find Steadyworth, because I've Googled that and I haven't seen anything else out there with providing that type of comprehensive information that somebody could just Google and find it all in one place.
Yeah. And that makes good sense, right? Just different behavior, different demographics. And they just grew up in a way where they're kind of, you could argue, more do-it-yourselfers because you have access to everything. YouTube, Google, you can kind of learn how to iFixit, right? Like, you learn how to fix anything. I'm not super handy, but I can figure out how to fix a washing machine with iFixit. Doc, you got something to say, man?
I think it's just also the generations a little bit. Money was something we ever talked about. When my age growing up, family never talked about it, especially if you didn't have a lot of it. So it was a very sore topic to have at home. So having this ability of this younger generation to understand that there is investments, things like Robinhood or whatever, whether they're good or bad, at least they're stoking the conversation out there. That it is, even stuff with crypto, right? Like ideas that were never there or available to us when I was that age, a few years ago. But is now relevant where it becomes part of the conversation. I think that's a little bit different for the younger generation.
And Doc, to your point, which I absolutely agree, a lot of those things are now available. I also think that, in the previous generation, they had to reach out to a stockbroker to trade stock. And so with those things being available now, stockbrokers don't really exist anymore. So it's like, there's to your whole point, there's just a lot more access now to do what you want to do.
All right. I feel like the normal average American out there, they hear financial plan, Gabe, and in their head, they're thinking like 100-page document. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe that's just because of my experience early on in the industry 20 years ago is like, oh, hey, I'll run you a financial plan. It's 170 pages. And it looks real good when you print it out, but nobody ever actually works through it, sticks with it, or anything along those lines. So Steadyworth is kind of like the opposite of that, right?
Right. Yes. And so, when I worked at all the firms I worked at, depending on what the person was doing, their financial plan was anywhere from 6 pages to all the way up to 20. And when you're in these meetings, I'm sure you both have been in these types of meetings, when you hand somebody a 20-page document, after page one, their eyes roll over, or when you hand it to them, they're thumbing through like, how long am I going to be here type thing. And I just thought there has to be a better way to run these meetings to give people the things that they need up front, and that they can leave, with a doable plan that they feel like, hey, I can actually execute this.
And so that's the goal, like not just create a plan, but actually make it actionable and usable.
Right. I mean, if we were just to think about this in a different way, imagine if, one of my other passions is barbecuing. Imagine if you said, hey, man, how are you going to smoke your turkey for Christmas or you make your prime rib, and I hand you a 5-page recipe on how I'm going to do it. Or I hand you a 9.1-page thing and you're like, oh, yeah, I can do this.
Right. No, that's pretty good, because if you gave me a 5-page recipe, it ain't happening.
Right.
It's just not happening. You give me 1 page and it's not so bad, but that kind of reminds me of, when you look up recipes online and you got to scroll through like 70 pages of a website just to get to the actual recipe, because they're telling you the story about how like barbecue was invented instead of just giving you the recipe, right? You deal with that before? Maybe that's that's the problem with financial plans too. You get all this fluff here. Just tell me how to do it.
Right.
That's interesting.
Absolutely agree.
So the important question is, what do you like to barbecue?
Ooh, for Christmas, we're going to do a prime rib for sure. I've at one point, growing up, my family used to do turkeys for Christmas and Thanksgiving, and so I just got totally turkeyed out. And so now I just go straight for the prime rib, and I only do turkey on Thanksgiving.
Okay. So the same. My mom's not a fan of turkey, so we usually sometimes we'll do the turkey on Thanksgiving as well, but a lot of times it turns out to be a prime rib as well. And I always take a picture and say, this is a weird looking turkey, because that joke never gets old.
I want to know what part of the financial plan is the prime rib.
I would say probably, the end product, the goal.
Yeah.
I'd say the goal.
All right. You got to walk me through something, because it's hard. I mean, a financial plan, I mean, depending on where I'm at in my life, what I got going on, right? I could have a lot of goals. I could have a lot of stuff I got to work on, and a lot of needs, whether it's risk management and just protection, whether it's, growing a nest egg for retirement, or whether it's just saving money to buy a house or something. How do you filter that down for people on the plan, or how do you kind of get that onto one page? That's a lot to break down.
Sure. So I take them through a goal strategy exercise. And so what this exercise consists of is they get a pack of flashcards. And so on the flashcards, they write one goal per flashcard. And on the back of the flashcard for each goal, they write 2 to 3 steps that they'll need to implement that goal. And so all financial goals require 2 things: income and action. And so as you look at these, then they have to put the flashcards in order of importance. And then we look at, there's 2 types of goals. There's balance focused goals and solo focused goals. And so a balance focused goal would be, I can save for retirement and I can go on vacation in the same year, because those don't really affect each other. Whereas solo focused goals may be, I'm saving to buy a home or I want to pay off debt. And so if you're saving to buy a home, every dollar you're making needs to go towards that home if you're trying to hurry up and get it. Whereas if you're saving to pay off high interest debt, every dollar needs to go towards that. So those would be solo focused goals. And so kind of getting them to think through this aspect, so then that they're putting their time, money, and energy in the proper direction to get the outcome they want to receive.
Right. So they're putting their priorities in place, and you're planning towards the priorities, not prioritizing to a plan per se, right? It's the difference between like putting a to-do list together and actually organizing what needs to get done and what's urgent. Have you found, like, you've been in the industry for a long time, right? How many years now have you been in the industry?
Almost 10 now. So yeah. So I got an. I'm
gonna round up and call it a decade.
Right. Yeah,
I'm giving you the decade.
Sure, I appreciate it. Give me the boost. Give me the boosty.
You're getting 10. You're getting the solid 10 here. How many people have you run across where they got a plan and they didn't really implement it, or they didn't do it?
A lot. And, some because it's complicated, some because they don't have the discipline to do it. It just kind of, it kind of depends. Some because they think they're in a better financial position than what they are. And so, it's kind of, anything, starting a business, entrepreneurship, working out, financial planning, it all takes being consistent, in order to be successful. And, one thing in life, there's not a lot of consistent people.
I'm waiting for, there he is. I was waiting for it, buddy.
What do you mean there's not a lot of consistent people? People do everything they're supposed to do all the time.
Doc, I have a question for you from the doctor aspect. One thing I see, like we all know that, hey, if you eat a certain way, you go for walks, you get your sleep, you could be in decent physical health. And then for finances, we all know that, hey, you spend less than what you make, you save, you invest regularly, you can be in decent financial health. Sometimes when I'm talking to people, I don't get what the disconnect is between knowing and doing. And so I was just wondering, from a psychological aspect, what have you seen and what would be your thoughts on that?
There's generally some sort of barrier that's been in place prior that's comfortable. That's where their consistency comes in, right? They're consistently comfortable with whatever they were doing. And when you try to make a change, even if you know it's better, if there's something that kind of gets in that way, it's easy to default back. See, our brain doesn't know right from wrong. It knows what we do over and over again, right? And it wants to automate as much as possible. So it's automating whatever we're doing, and it automates whatever we do over and over. So when you try to introduce something new into it, the second you stop paying attention to that change, it defaults right back to what it knows, because it doesn't want to think about it. It says, this is what I used to do. This is what I'm going to do until you tell me different. So if you give up that constant reminder, we talk about the 3 R's. You can go back to a few episodes. We talked about that again, or just, send us a message. We'll refresh you.
Were you about to give one of them away? You might.
I don't mind giving away, but if they want to go into detail,
right.
So there, it's basically review, repeat, and reinforce. Those are the 3 R's. And if you're not continuously doing those, your brain just goes right back to whatever it was doing prior, just because that's what's easy.
No, I like that. And no, I that's great. I need to go back and listen 3 episodes and get that too.
At this point, it might be 6.
Yeah. Who knows?
Just listen to them all. You'll find it.
Yes.
Download every episode. That's the key here.
That's right.
Your one takeaway today, just download every episode and like and subscribe and follow.
Right. And a 5-star review.
Hey, he's good. We got to get this guy back on. Have you heard of the marshmallow study? I love talking about this study. I've talked about this half dozen times over the last couple of years. Are you familiar with the marshmallow study?
I'm not. Educate me, please.
Okay. So there's this study done. They took a bunch of like 2nd or 3rd graders. I'm going to butcher the actual exact study, but you can Google it. It's on YouTube for all your people. I mean, this is right up their alley. They basically sat down with these kids and they brought out a marshmallow and they said, hey, you can have this marshmallow right now if you want it. Or if you could just wait 20 minutes, you'll get 2 marshmallows. And what they found was 80% of kids, nope, they're getting that marshmallow. I'm having my marshmallow right now. But 1 out of 5, we're able to kind of hold off and they get that second marshmallow. But they then tracked these kids into adulthood. And what they realized is, hey, this percentage, 1 out of 5, that can actually like hold themselves to a discipline here, holds true through adulthood. So we see the same behaviors and we see it with savings and finance and every other goal and so on and so forth. So you get the doc talking about change of behavior, which is a lot harder for people to do than I think we probably give it credit for. We all think we're good at it and we're not. What's your opinion? Are there just savers and people who are good at planning, or can this really help those 4 out of 5 people that they want their marshmallow?
Yeah, it's hard. I also feel like culturally where we're at, we're used to having everything we want right now. I just finished up reading this book on the psychology of money. It's called The Psychology of Money. And it was talking about how even politically, after World War II, the government used consumer spending to help us stimulate the economy. And so, as American consumers, we're used to spending money. And so I feel that, if you didn't grow up really learning to save, it is a muscle that you have to genuinely practice to implement. And
it's not easy. I mean, it's not. I've always said the easiest way to save more money is just to make more money. It's a lot easier to make more money than it is to save money in my experience. I'd rather just earn more. I don't have to stop spending. I could just like have more in my account, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's like you do that and then all of a sudden, well, it's not $5,000 a month bills and expenses. It's $25,000 a month. It's like, well, I got to earn a lot of money if I got $25,000 worth of expenses coming out every month.
Absolutely.
It's it is interesting that it's a cultural thing though, and I agree with that.
I agree. People who are making more, and that's another problem I've seen in financial planning is that then you have some people who, make a lot of money. We get hit with the recession, then they can't find a job that's paying them to support that $25,000 a month lifestyle. They only can find one that affords to pay a quarter of that, maybe $7,000 a month. And then, the bills don't stop. So like you just can't turn off 25K in bills real quick. So then that creates a problem. And so, it compounds and all kinds of stuff. They're getting money from parents who are retired on fixed incomes, and that creates a problem. Then you're like, oh man, this is a hot mess.
I'd be remiss in not doing my duty if I did not remind everyone that if you go into our YouTube channel and you scroll way back, quite a while back, we might have done a video about the marshmallow test.
We did. It's a fun video.
It might have ended with us trying to eat a lot of marshmallows.
Man, Gabe, have you ever played that game where you just see how many marshmallows you can shove in your mouth?
I think I at camp a couple of times and at youth group, we've done the thing, or sometimes with the hot dogs.
Yeah.
And then you're probably ready. I'm usually ready to yak right after that happens.
So it doesn't have to be at camp. We'll actually do it at our office too. So that was part of our. It's a fun video. I'm just laughing here because I'm like, man, yeah, $7K a month. That might be, give it another 6 months. That might be the cost of a prime rib at the grocery store.
Right.
We're seeing inflation going because it's expensive out there.
Right.
So something like what you're doing, man. I mean, just kind of to dig back into it. It seems like it would help with some of that behavior, or at least you're capturing kind of culturally what's going on with the younger generation. Certainly you're just more used to being able to access everything online and super quickly. And it seems like, okay, here's something where I can kind of get it now. Maybe I can't get all my goals right now, but I can get the action plan for my goals right now. I don't have to sit here for 2 hours to figure it out. It's like, it's here.
Yes. And so, one thing that's unique about the way I encourage people to build plans is different from what I've seen at any RIA that I've worked at, is that most RIAs are registered investment advisors for people. I don't want to use jargon for those who don't know. Most people kind of come with their money and they say, hey, this is my money. This is my current life. I want to build a financial plan to do X, Y, and Z. And I encourage people I work with. I said, instead of building a plan around your current circumstances, let's get very clear on your goals. And then let's build a life so that, build a plan that you can live your dream life now. And I mean, I'm a testament to this actual thing. So, I mean, as you know, I'm living here in Miami. I used to live in the Bay Area. People think I joke, but literally as a kid, I watched Miami Vice. I've always wanted to live in Miami. And so I started building my plan and I said, hey, I want, I'm not going to, my cubicle at my old job was called Miami. I said, I'm not going to call this Miami anymore. I'm going to live in Miami and I'm going to live my dream life. Of course, when people think about when you're living your dream and you're getting these things, sometimes when you set a goal, it's not just what you want to accomplish, but it's also what are you willing to give up? So like if I'm going for 6-pack abs, I'm saying I'm not going to eat cookies late at night. So it's like I'm going for the Miami dream. I'm going to cut back in other areas too. So I encourage, as I'm taking people through this thing, to like, let's get a real clear aspect of how you want to live your life now and for the future. And let's build a plan that encompasses all of those. So you can't always have your cake and eat it too, but it kind of makes you enjoy things a little bit more.
It sounds nice though, having your cake and eating it too. Live the life.
I mean, so far in this podcast, we've talked about barbecue and cookies and now cake, and you expect me to concentrate at this point?
It is the holiday season, man. Come on. I mean, this is on brand for this time of year.
Right.
I'm just ready for some prime rib and cookies now.
So you guys have probably guessed that food is my love language. I mean, I'm not a big guy, but there's a fat kid that lives inside of me. And so I'm kind of like, when people tell me they forgot to eat, I'm like, I'm thinking about tomorrow's food yesterday. So like food's always on the mind. So that's where these food analogies come from.
I'm all in.
I was gonna say you got a fan over here and a friend because this is right up Dre's alley. You talk food and he gets excited. Yeah, I chuckle with Dre. Hey, I'm on track here. I'm on track. Don't call me squirrel.
I didn't say you were the squirrel.
So I'm down in Miami.
You internalized that one, didn't you?
I did. I'm down in Miami a good amount, and I'm constantly like, "Hey, Doc, you should come down to Miami with me," so on and so forth. He's like, "It's a drive. It's a drive." Unless there's like a wine or food fest, and then all of a sudden he's like down in Miami all the time, and I'm like, "I can't get you down there," but so I think we might have something we can all get together on.
Sure.
We just got to get together next food fest or wine fest or something.
Right.
We'll make that work.
I was also thinking maybe if you got all the podcast guests together and we all did maybe like a marshmallow or a hot dog eating contest as a I think that might be interesting as well.
Ooh,
just a thought.
Ooh, I
maybe
like
for the
that.
Summer watermelon eating contest.
I like
Hands
that.
behind your back.
we could do prizes for the people who are the best. Absolutely. So that is a good networking event, right, Doc? We could do something fun with that.
Definitely
make it a little bit different. Hey, man, you just volunteered to help us plan that.
That's right. I'm there with you guys. Absolutely.
But it's got to be a 1-page plan.
That's right. Keep it simple.
That's it. On a more serious note,
sure.
Right? What you're doing is, to me, you're kind of looking at shifts in how people get things done, and it really is a demographic focus to me, right? Like it's a generational focus, which is neither good nor bad, right? Like you got people in the older generations that definitely feel and kind of work the same way people in the younger generations do, but this speaks to younger people, I imagine. Do you see any like trends developing there or evolving there from like behavior and from this generation that you're working with?
Not yet, but I want to say the biggest trend that I'm focusing on that I'm trying to set is what I would call, the normalization of financial planning. And specifically what I mean is that, if I say, hey, I teach about investing in the stock market, everybody knows what that is immediately with no other words, because there's movies on it. We've been learned about stock market, 401k, all of that stuff. Whereas if I say I'm talking about financial planning, most people say, well, is that a budget or is that investing? It's like, no, those are two things inside of a comprehensive financial plan. But I'm talking about, estate planning, insurance, taxes, savings, goals, and how all of these things work together to make a comprehensive picture that is your life. And I just feel like most people don't think of finance, or really nobody does unless you've been trained to think of finances that way. And so what I'm trying to do is to basically create a shift, is to basically kind of get this idea out there that this isn't just something that, you have to have a lot of money to do, or that rich people do, but, this is something that's happening already in your life, whether you like it or not. All these things are at play. And so if you kind of plan around these things, it just kind of tees you up for it to be in a better position, basically.
Yeah, you got a great point there, right? We're not educated on this stuff. It's still not in the school systems. I mean, you don't learn about financial planning. You don't learn about the home economics of just saving and spending. It does not exist in education today. So, making it accessible, which clearly you're doing, not just, I think, from ease of use, because it's a 1-pager, but even from like a pricing, right? This whole, I don't have $1 million, I can't get a financial plan here. I mean, the platform you built out is pretty accessible.
Yes. Yeah. And that was my goal. It's like, hey, this is, an expensive, what these courses cost could be an expensive dinner, or a little bit of a vacation for some, the more expensive one, but, it's something that's not out of reach, by a long shot. And it's a one-time upfront fee. Whereas, sometimes people are working to put people into a reoccurring subscription model. It's not that. And so it's like, you kind of know what you're going into up front. If you want to make payments, you can do that. And so, and you can get it all.
I think that's big, right? I mean, you're just tackling something that is probably a sticking point that doesn't get said a lot, which is like, hey, can I even afford to invest in learning this stuff? And it's like, yeah. I mean, this is pretty affordable. This is something that you can go into without feeling like you got to give up something you're trying to achieve just to figure out if you're on the right track or not. So I think that's a cool thing, man.
Sure. Hey, Doc, I was wondering, could I get some advice on when I'm talking to people, and I feel like a lot of times when I'm talking to guys, we're so into the muscle of the stock market, whereas the ladies are generally into the planning aspect. But so I feel like sometimes when I'm talking to guys, they feel like planning takes too long, kind of like the marshmallow thing. It's like I'd rather have and do right now. Any advice on from a psychology aspect on how maybe I could word this better to kind of talk about, waiting for the marshmallow or the 5 marshmallows at the end of the day, or putting the plan together will make things better?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, the one thing I'll start off before I have any answers after that is the one size does not fit all. So we're going to do some generalization, which, as I think
Sure.
about it a lot of times, is there's men and women that would do both. But what we generally see when we have these kind of conversations is there's a stubbornness, right? So you just kind of have to break through it. We've had this conversation also when it comes to like mental health, the same thing too. That's that stigma attached to it, that macho-ness, and waiting doesn't necessarily sound good, right? It's like, I want to do it now and I want to do it big. So it's really kind of just tapping into what their motivation is, probably trying to find out a little bit more what their why is, and then drawing a picture on how to get there. So really too. So if it's someone who's like maybe that goes to the gym a lot and you can see these other big muscles, just ask them like, did you go to the gym once and get ripped like that? Or, so I can just go tomorrow and become like you, kind of create it back to something that they can reference to, right? Like if they're maybe a good football player or something, and you're like, oh, so I can just go, run a route and I'll be as good as you. And then of course not, you gotta spend some time into that. There has to be a plan and then they can kind of relate it back to something that they know. Same thing could be about a barbecue, right? Can you just throw that roast on there and be ready to eat it? Nope. Especially if you want to smoke something, you got to do it, take some time. So kind of finding what speaks to them and then drawing the parallel about time around that.
No, I think that'd be helpful. No, I like that a lot.
Yeah, I'm going to speak up here for a second. I know you didn't ask me, Gabe, but I'm going to give you my opinion anyway.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, no, hey, I'm here to learn. I'm here to learn.
I'm a big cocktail napkin guy, right? So if it can go on a cocktail napkin, it's something that can be understood. And I'm going to try to, because this on video too. So I'm going to try to show this on video in the right way, because I get confused here. But if you're drawing a chart, I think you can draw 2 lines on a chart to kind of explain why somebody should be doing it this way. And by that way, I mean, do the planning, take the time up front, because you can have something on the chart which kind of stays low and then goes up a skyscraper. And you could talk about that as being somebody's wealth and level of success in this planning, right? And that's one line you could draw. And you'll notice that line, it takes a long time before you see any lift, but long term, you're going to have a really high end to the chart line there. The other option is to kind of have a quick start, but it plateaus and it levels over time. And that's kind of, to me, the people that want to jump in and not do the planning and not do the work. They want that shortcut, and that shortcut, they'll give you the initial kick real fast, but you're never going to get to the heights you'll get with the other line. And I think sometimes you need to just illustrate to that to people and say, hey, if you had to choose, and knowing that it's going to take longer on this line to get there, but you're going to shoot up a lot faster and further, which of these lines would you really want? I mean, in 10 years and 15 years and 20 years, which of these would you really want? And most people, I think what they're going to answer. Well, they're going to say, all right, well, I mean, I might not like it, but obviously I want that better line. Right. And sometimes that's just the type of conversation we need to have with people, which is like, hey, you're just going to have to eat it a little bit here for a while and recognize that if you want the better long-term results, there's no shortcut to get in there. The shortcut's going to hurt you long-term.
Yes. No, I agree.
If you are a podcast only listener,
that made no sense at all.
You really need to go over to YouTube, because JB's demonstration of drawing a line was absolutely riveting. And I cannot do it any justice. So make sure, stop whatever you're doing and find that video, because that was like must-watch TV, the way he really used his finger to draw that line.
What's hilarious is I probably have the ability to do like a whiteboard, but it would have been a lot easier to use a whiteboard, right?
No, that was riveting. That was like must-watch TV.
Okay. All right, Doc, whatever. It's a cocktail napkin idea. Anybody, you can, I'll put it on its own video. Okay.
Make it part of the thumbnail.
But I do like the visuals, and I do like walking people through stuff like that, Gabe. It makes it a lot easier for people to kind of have it in front of them, have it tangible, and you get to choose, right? Which of these lives do you want? Which end result are you most interested in? Let them answer it.
I agree.
So what I'm hearing is plans are important.
No shortcuts.
Those are some important takeaways because, I love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah.
That was really just a lineup for me to get that line in.
You just set yourself up on a line by yourself?
Yeah, of course, because I can't depend on you to do that.
I miss them.
Hence why I set myself up. I'm my own best wingman. So speaking of setting people up and giving back, we heard there is something that you would like to share with our audience, some sort of giveaway possible or some sort of code or something that they should be paying attention to. Tell us a little bit about that.
So there's two things. There's one, I have a free ebook called Why Most Budgets Don't Work, and you can download that at my website, which is steadyworth.com. And also, if you Google Steadyworth is one word, not two. And then also we have there's going to be a code which is Take Charge 22, and that will give you 22% off of all of the courses on the Steadyworth website. 22% because it's 2022, and the best time to have a financial plan is today.
That's awesome.
And we know it's only 22 for a few more weeks, so get on that. Don't delay. Of course, it's right in our show notes. You will be able to find all those links.
Gabe, man, love what you're doing out there. Really appreciate you carving out the time and just making something a lot more accessible to people that wouldn't otherwise think they could access this. Really pretty great mission, man. I'm excited to see how it plays out for you.
Thanks. I appreciate you and the doc for having me, and I'm looking forward to our watermelon eating contest next year.
I thought we were going to do a prime rib eating contest because that's what I was down for.
Right. I just like how you take a charge of this, right? Take charge 22, man. I love it.
Right. Well, it'll be take charge 23 at that point, for our watermelon contest.
All right. We'll put a discount on our event. Take charge 23. You got it. All right. Yeah. Gabe, enjoy the holiday season, man, and thank you again.
You guys too. Have a great one.
You too. All right. Don't leave the room.
There's no pause button on this, but we'll have our VA cut from there.
Good conversation. Good job.
Yeah.
How'd it feel? Felt great.
Good.
Hopefully
pretty easy. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, you guys are easy to talk to.
It only seems scary for the first few seconds.
Yeah. It wasn't bad at all. Yeah, it was. You guys are super easy to talk to. I've been on a few awkward ones where it's like, you guys are super easy to talk to.
We have our moments where we get a little lost, but we tend to play it pretty well now after a couple of years of doing this. I appreciate you asking Dre some questions and bringing in the psychology of it. I think that's super helpful for us and for what we do. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. No, I wanted to be prepared. And actually, like I was saying, I did just read this book called The Psychology of Money, and it enlightened me. And I feel like, like you said, there's a ton of stuff that, psychology is a huge part of this whole thing.
Who's the author on that?
This is Morgan, and I might mispronounce his name, is Housel, Morgan Housel. It just came out. I want to say this maybe about 3 years ago.
Okay.
2019. Every year seems to run together. I believe it's 2019, but it was a really great read, and I enjoy. I feel like to be better with helping people, you kind of have to understand different aspects. Everybody comes from a different place, and I'm always trying to learn more to see how I can help better or better help.
I can tell you that's my personal mission for us, Andre and I, next year is to put a big focus on kind of the psychology, the soft side of planning, right? The psychology behind planning and life events, right? Like how to manage the client's behaviors and emotions during life events. So I think that's a big piece of what we're looking to build out next year. So I'll have to check that book out. I'll put it on my list. It sounds like a pretty interesting behavioral finance, or
Yeah, I mean, it talks about behaviors. It also goes over a little bit of American history and just kind of like how basically consumer expectations have changed. And it just because it talks about a little bit of like after World War II, and what things were like and how the economy has shifted, and how Americans used to shy away from debt, now we love debt, and just kind of all of these things, living in your means, below your means, above your means. Kind of hits on he winds in all different kinds of stories through all of it. So it was an interesting read for sure.
I love that you actually have the hard copy. It's not just an ebook. I can't retain anything from an ebook, man. I can't do it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Guess he's written a lot of books. I'm just trying to see if he's an actual psychologist or anything, or if he's just playing off the name.
He's just pretending.
Seems to be, but
I love what you guys are doing here with the podcast. I mean, the episode I listened to with her Weber, because the business was
Stephanie.
Weber Co, right?
Yeah.
And and it's marketing, and
she's out of Indianapolis, right?
Yeah. And so it was a bunch of stuff about business, and I like to nerd on business too. Doc, one thing you said in there that really hit me, that I've been thinking about ever since I heard it, was we were talking about hustle and balance, and you were saying something to the effect of hustle 265 instead of 365, which is like the 80-20 rule. And I mean, I don't know if that's an original thing for you, but I'd never heard of it. And I was like, man, this is a really awesome take on that. And I was just in winding in balance in business and in financial planning, so you don't burn out and going after your goals, or burn out in building your business. I was like, man, that is an excellent aspect. And so I just wanted to say I really appreciated that nugget, and it's been on my mind.
I appreciate it. That would have been good to bring up, because I could use my favorite graphic. I love to throw that one up there.
I know.
It is an original, yeah. And I kind of did the math around it too, so it's not like perfect exact, but it kind of works out to me.
I didn't check the math, but I figured, I was like, that sounds right about it. And I mean,
it's pretty close.
It's a great concept.
It is pretty close to being spot on with it, and it is important to take some time. Like, even to talk about food, like that's part of self-care. If you're enjoying doing it, if you like to barbecue, if you like to do those things, you got to balance that in, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, life is about balance. And so, and even making this money, working, I mean, we're ultimately doing this so we can live better lives and hopefully do more of the stuff we love. Not that we don't love our work, but
you're on
four-letter word from time to time.
On Instagram, you're
at Steadyworth on all socials. So on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. I don't post on Twitter, but I am on there.
That's you have to pay your $8 soon if you want to.
Right, I saw that.
It's funny.
All right, both.
I think we know the name of our event next year. We're going to call it Hustle 265. And it's going to be a marshmallow eating or a watermelon eating contest.
We should definitely do something around that Hustle 265.
We should. It's a really good idea, actually, for us to.
It's a great idea.
Push on that, because Andre came up with that. I want to say like a year ago. Right?
Yeah, we've been to it. Yeah, it's when the hustle. Everyone was hustle all the time. I'm like, why? There's a gym around here that says no days off. I'm like, you need a day off. You have to recover. Your body will break. Take a day off. It's okay.
I feel like
we talk about that a lot.
I don't want to volunteer you for this, but I feel like that might be a great book title too. So
that's on our to-do list too.
Yeah.
If we only had all the time in the world, right?
I'm working on that, like having all the time in the world. Haven't figured out how to do that yet.
We're getting there, but it would be a good book. And that could actually be like authored by a psychologist or co-authored.
Not just saying it,
do it all.
Morgan Housel's doing.
Hey, he's one step ahead of us. He has a book written, at least.
He's got a bunch of books. Apparently, that's what he's good at. He's a award-winning author, according to Amazon. And they never lie.
Well, it's easy to be an award-winning author and a bestseller. You just need to plan it, right? You got to put an action plan in place.
That's right.
Cool. So, Gabe, what we'll do is we'll do kind of a closeout here, just the two of us. About a week or so beforehand, we'll get you a social media graphic, that we're putting out anyways, and we'll let you know we're going to start promoting. But don't do your thing, right? If you want to promote this and put it out there, definitely do. We can get you the raw file, we can get you the audio,
I
the
would
video.
love that, and I'm going to send you. I didn't send it yet. I did read it in the email, so I know I'm outstanding on the side. I owed you guys a picture and a logo, and I'm going to send both of those.
Perfect.
For sure.
Yeah. Just a couple weeks before, by the end of the month, basically. Especially with Thanksgiving coming, that would be great. So we can have our team get everything together, because we usually have them run a couple weeks ahead of time. And then, man, I would just say, promote where you can, when you can, email list, Instagram, so on and so forth. Tag us. If you haven't subscribed and followed,
I have, and I'm going to make sure to leave a 5-star review. Absolutely.
I love it. Thank you.
Pay attention.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys for sharing the stage and for the opportunity and just Doc, pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure to meet you.
Of course, glad that we've gotten to meet and looking forward to seeing you next week. And
yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yes. So should I just make sure?
We can boot you. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, you guys have a blessed weekend. Pleasure to meet you guys, and looking forward to December 12th. Right?
Yes, sir.
12th, and I'll email, send the stuff, and also I want to get you guys this file so I can create a graphic and start promoting as well.
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah, you got it, man.
Awesome. Have a great day, guys.
All right. Thanks, Gabe. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right.
Okay.
Wrap up time. Do a wrap up real quick so you can hit end.
Ready when you are? Do you want me to
start? Yeah.
It's always interesting when you're talking to somebody who's focused on the way different generations do things, right? And it's interesting because we know somebody in the baby boomer generation could very much be somebody who goes online and somebody who uses YouTube and Google, but probably more often than not, they're not as tech forward as the younger generation. So it's kind of neat to see what Gabe's doing here, Doc, in respect to matching his service and his product to the need of the generation, the behavior of the generation.
Yeah. The young people like myself, we spend a lot of time on YouTube, and where we get a lot of our information. Sometimes wind up in rabbit holes, but that's what us young people do, is we spend a lot of time on those social media ways to get our information. And it's important that there's good resources out there like Gabe that's actually speaking to it. So, because as you know, there's a lot of stuff online that can kind of lead you in the wrong direction. So having someone like Gabe who can kind of help break that down is very important.
And I do love what he talked about with the trend, with just like, hey, this is I just want the trend to be that financial planning is a part of what we do, right? This is something that's not out there. I can do this and I can take action on it, and anybody can have access to it. That level of financial education has been so missing from students and adults here in the United States, and you see the impact and the influence of it. So to be able to put something in place to really address that, I think has a much greater impact than just offering a financial planning product. It addresses something much larger.
And I mean, a lot of the youth these days, it's probably one of the easiest times to amass a little bit of wealth, with the idea of influencers. And there's ways, drop shipping. There's so many ways now that the younger generations are making more money than they would, say, the days of working at McDonald's, right? When you were working for less than minimum wage. Dishwashing, that's how I got my start, right? Now you can actually get out there and make a little bit of money where you can use it to invest in, like, hearing that you don't need like a giant amount of money unless you work for Dr. Evil, apparently. You can get started with something that gives the youth a chance to get started at a much earlier day. And as we know, that's going to compound so much more over time where they have that benefit, which just wasn't recognized back then.
There's a lot of opportunities out there today.
He also talked about goals, and I think that is a perfect segue to talk about our next podcast that's coming up, where we're going to be talking about setting goals, not resolutions, setting goals for the new year. So We don't often tease what's coming up next podcast, but I'm doing that right now because I think it's so important to get that right as you're headed into the new year.
Well, we don't like resolutions, do we, Doc?
Resolutions are all they are is a resolution to fail.
I like having resolve. I think that's a good character trait.
I use that to clean my carpet.
Also good for that too. Okay. On to the wrap up. Thank you all for listening and joining us today, watching us on YouTube here. If you haven't had a chance yet, definitely like, subscribe, follow, give us that 5-star review. If you're trying to catch up with Gabe or Steady Wealth, go ahead in the show notes, all those details. Yes, you can slide into our DMs, and don't forget, we've got a bunch of courses out there. We've got a bunch of free content out there, 7-minute masterclass, a lot of resources to help you become better at what you do. So take advantage and let us know what you want to hear from us next year.
And of course, you can find out all our information at our website at jbandthedoctor.com, on all our platforms at jbandthedoctor. And we'll see you at our wonderful events. And you know I love it when a plan comes together.
Had to put it in there, didn't you?
Of course.
Absolutely. Everybody, I'm JB. I'm out.
I'm the doctor. Peace out, yo.